All right, we're live. Still waiting on Digger.
Yes, we are. We are
Digga,
live.
digga.
Uncle Hotep. Let me post this link in the thread. So it sounds like all the forums are gonna get a podcast.
Wow, that's big news.
Yeah, it should be. I'm really excited about the one in the booth because.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say JBO.
What's JBO? But music taste is always interesting. It's always good debate when it comes to music. It's completely subjective, but people have some pretty hardline rules and criteria for what's good and what isn't.
Indeed.
That should be exciting. Uh, right now, I'm just reading this thread. Joe Biden, really? He's thinking about running?
What? I thought again. Didn't he denounce it and then like?
It could be for president. It could be for something else. Who the hell knows, right?
Oh, I don't know. I think he should go away. It's gonna be interesting. That's one
Yeah.
way to guarantee 4 more of Trump, barring an impeachment, of course.
I don't think it's that simple,
Do
buddy.
you, do
But
you even think do you even think an impeachment is possible, man?
I don't, but I routinely skateboard through the thread and see that there's a lot of people who feel it's inevitable. It's coming soon, if you will, and it's certain. So I have yet to see anything that makes me think it's for sure going to happen.
do you think the things that have come out have been getting progressively worse? Would you say?
Um, from what I've seen, it's all just a bunch of lying. Just I haven't seen anything outside of lying that I would say is impeachable. Anything that Trump directly has done that's impeachable. But yeah,
Nice.
there's tons of lying coming from the people surrounding him. There's definitely enough smoke to say that there's fire, but I've seen no evidence that Trump has done anything to be impeached for.
When you say lying, do you mean the administration or do you mean the fake news?
The administration and the news, both. The mainstream media definitely tells people what they want to hear. It's a ratings game. I don't put too much stock in the mainstream media at all.
Do you think that the media is telling stories?
I think they are embellishing, and I think they have invested interest in keeping people's interests. So yes, I think there is some theatrical flair added to the stories. Absolutely.
Hell yeah, definitely, man. I mean, because look, one story always varies from station to station. Like Fox News puts their twist on it from
Yeah,
Fox
I
News.
think
If if it were just the media telling stories, do you think all these investigations would be happening?
I think they go. I don't look at them together. What the media is doing is just something I've literally never seen before. I don't think anyone's ever seen. I think it's all unprecedented. I don't think there's anything you can really compare it to. But what the media is doing is just fear
I mean,
mongering. I mean, they're just feeding on
no,
people's
I
fear.
don't
They're
know.
trying to match the hysteria and the fervor of people who want to see Trump go down. I think
No, but
objectivity is completely lost in the country when it comes to Trump.
I think they are reporting on what's going on, though. I mean, you have the special prosecutor, you had the head of the FBI fired, you had the attorney general
Sure. I
fired.
mean, you can get the same story from Fox and from CNN, and their both stories will be based on a little on truth and be spun completely differently. I don't think that's really the issue. Is that it's necessarily fake. I think how they're reporting it is playing a part in people's fervor for the issue.
Do you think Fox is on the same level of reporting as, say, a newspaper?
No,
No. No. Yeah.
no. no. But I think all those institutions, it's hard. There's no one's being objective in their reporting, and I think a lot of it has to do with Trump actually firing shots directly at them. Like you can't sit on the New York Times and then expect them to do an objective piece on him. It's just the game's fucked
Yeah,
up.
I mean, but that's like maybe one facet of it. But I mean, if they're reporting on what's happening, you can't really say that they're stepping off the mark because I mean, their articles are based on what his administration has said, what he has said, and what's happening in Washington.
I think context is important. You know, a lot of this was done with Obama, but spun the other way, and people understood that you couldn't really take what the media was saying at face value. But now that it's Trump, everything that they say, there's no spin. It's facts only. We should take it for exactly what it's fucking, for exactly what it appears to be at face value. It's crazy.
Well, in comparison, though, what would you compare in the Obama White House was similar to what's going on now? I don't think there is a situation like that.
I think the way Republicans responded to Obama winning is similar to how the left responded to Trump winning. And I think
but there wasn't with Obama, there wasn't that smoke and fire and constant.
I think the closest thing to it would be Hillary's emails or Benghazi. The way the right just spun the stories and kept it going, and to this day. And I think that's what we're seeing from the left with Trump. And in both instances, I think there was some truth to it, a lot of truth to both sides. But the media is definitely playing a role in keeping the public's interest.
Let's back up here for a second, Dad. So they spent more on the Benghazi investigation than they did on the 9/11 Commission, and they found that she wasn't responsible.
I also believe that they'll find that Trump is not guilty of collusion. So I think it'll be.
Hillary wasn't Trump, though. Hillary was a Secretary of State.
Sure. No, this is completely unprecedented. The stakes are definitely higher. But I think the media's role in all of it is similar.
You can say that, yeah. But when you have people repeatedly committing crimes and getting caught and lying.
I think when you have I consider the media to be the fourth branch of government. And when you have their livelihood dependent on ratings and people purchasing papers, they have a vested interest in stoking these kind of flames. So I can't really rely on them.
If that were the case, though, why didn't that happen with Obama? Where was the 24-hour scandal or the 8-year-long scandal? Except it was, perpetrated by right-wing media when there really wasn't anything. We didn't see calls for a special prosecutor. We didn't see people getting accused and getting fired, and
no one's saying that he's innocent. I'm saying that the media is.
But if you can just
overselling,
though, is you're blaming the media. You're not. It's apples and oranges here, but you're still trying to say that they're the same thing.
They aren't the same thing. This is unprecedented, as in there's never been anything like it before. But the media spin is similar to what we've seen in the past. That's exactly what I'm saying. I just don't see how people can suddenly trust the media. I think the media and their reporting should always be taken with a grain of salt.
But you when someone lies to you, Dad.
Right, for sure. And as I said at the beginning, there's tons of lying going on. No question, tons of lying. But I haven't seen media reporting on actual crimes. People on the board list actual crimes, but I don't see the news stations. Yeah, the money laundering isn't the and that's not the focal point. Isn't that kind of odd to you? How the actual crime isn't the focal point of everyday reporting on the issue? Doesn't that seem kind of weird?
But it's what we've come to see is, I mean, part of the reason there's a special prosecutor now is because the Republicans have politicized the whole system where the system can't even work. Or they've fired everyone whose job it was to prosecute these types of things. and then you have like Sessions get rubber stamped in, recuse himself, take himself out of recusal, and which he can't do, and violate numerous ethics laws in his duty.
Let me ask you a question. Does this conclude guilt to you personally?
Absolutely.
Mm.
If you're lying on these government forms for your security clearance, it's a fucking crime. If you're lying to Congress, it's a crime. If you're lying to the Senate, it's a crime.
I'm talking about Trump here specifically. You are concluding guilt.
It's much larger than that, as you very well know. Because if Sessions is the one who's supposed to be prosecuting these crimes, and he can't, and he got into office by lying and then saying that he's recused himself from these investigations, and then doesn't do that, that is a crime. That is a serious crime. You have someone who's supposed to uphold the laws of the country, and to get into that position, you committed a crime. That's a fact.
I agree. It is. They are. You know, it's funny. Whenever the person gets prosecuted, that's not famous, not financially well off, the people don't care about him. But when he has connections, power, and people in his pocket, he can get away with almost anything. And it's crazy because it's like you see what he's doing, but yet nobody says nothing about it to his face. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, you have a situation where the checks and balances have failed.
Yeah.
And where you've had anyone who had the capability to try to right these wrongs, the administration stepped over a pretty well set up line and fired these people. That's, I think that's pretty serious. And you can say, oh, well, no one was convicted, but if you're impeding an investigation where anyone who tries to do their job is getting fired or getting harassed or both, I think, you're wandering into, that's not democracy and that's not our legal system.
It's crazy how polarized the country is. Like it's
I think you want to use one book for one set of people and another book for another, and right now the Republicans are not being consistent with their own ideology.
Who is these days? It's going to be very interesting to see what happens from this, and it's sad to watch Russia laugh the way they do and Putin joke about what's going on in America the way he is. And
yeah. I mean,
the only thing sadder than Trump being convicted or impeached and removed is if there's nothing there and America's been in a hissy fit over nothing. I think at this point you would just everyone has to hope that there's something wrong going on with Trump himself and Russia.
Even if he isn't directly, numerous people around him are. And I think that's enough to invalidate his presidency. And, all the things that have happened wouldn't be happening if there wasn't something wrong. You don't go out and fire the head of the FBI. You don't fire the acting attorney general. You don't go after federal prosecutors all over the country just because.
I think the hate for Trump is really serving him well now because his supporters can really point to how he won and how everyone was not. He's not my president. They've been out to get him since day one. So now when you say it illegitimizes his presidency, well, the left's been saying he's not their president since he got into office. So it looks more like a witch hunt whether or not it is or not, they can still say, well, you've been feeling that way even before all of this. Like, this is just an excuse.
But it sounds like you're 6 months behind or more on all the news and reporting that's happened. All of the things that have come out during his actual campaign and after. And
I followed. There's a bombshell every week. I actually stay on top of Knapp's tweets. Every week there's a bombshell. In fact, I think he just had a bombshell dropped yesterday. It's a reoccurring thing.
You can't just say that it's the left when these are, career government people saying that there was collusion and that there was an active attempt by Russia to undermine, what was going on. And you have Kushner and Flynn and Sessions, all of them lying on their government forms. And, everything, when you listen to the head of the NSA, the CIA, and the FBI say what they have, it's not some witch hunt.
Right. I definitely believe that Russia interfered in the election, like without a doubt. But collusion's a whole different ballpark, though. I think you really have to prove that.
Well, I think when you have all these officials who have been meeting these people before Trump was elected and lying about it,
I think even if they were playing golf every weekend, you still have to prove collusion. That doesn't conclude anything.
But they shouldn't be lying about it. And the fact that they lied about it, they shouldn't be in government.
That's true. I agree with that. But that doesn't conclude collusion on the election. Like, there's a jump that's being made here either way. Real or not. I'm not even saying that you're wrong, but there's still a jump that's being made.
But they're in government, and no one has done anything to get them out besides Flynn. That's breaking the trust of the American people. And then you have the story of Kushner, from what's been reported, trying to establish a backdoor without any oversight to the Russian government. I can't even get my head around that.
I'd love to see Sessions go. He's just a terrible human being.
Well, the thing is, that's all, like I say to people, you have their awful policies and histories. And that's one set of issues that you can have with them. That's fine. Or it's not fine, or whatever. But then you have these, ethics violations, whether they're related to Russia or their business dealings. That's another pile of things. And then you have, this active, fucked up situation with the Russians where you have obstruction of justice, business dealings, mafia-esque stuff going on, and possible treason, essentially. And that's another basket. You have 4 baskets, and there's probably fucking more that I can't even think of. And
Let me ask you a question. Do you think having an effective establishment president like Mike Pence would be better for America than someone who's getting fought by his own party like Trump?
I think it would be easier for the Republican Party. I think it would be a more established path in the norms of American politics.
So you'd be more comfortable with the Republican agenda moving along smoothly than with Trump in office?
It's not just Trump, though. The problem isn't just Trump. He's a figurehead, but he's a terrible president. I mean, and like I just said, like those 4 baskets of things, which apply to him, but also most of his administration, from what I've seen. So, I mean,
so it would be an upgrade to have more of a establishment Republican president in.
The George Bush administration would be an upgrade over the current Trump administration.
I'm actually a big fan of their inability to really get anything done, and I think it would be worse to have the Republican agenda rolling full steam.
I mean, between the executive orders and him, trying to get out of every treaty and fuck over Obama's legacy at every turn, that's pretty bad in itself. I'm not saying Pence wouldn't do that, but You know, you have Trump pushing them to, you know, get rid of Obamacare without a replacement. And, you know, there's a lot wrong with Trump and his administration's handling. And I think a lot of the stuff that is put on Trump could also be put on Pence. I don't think they're so dissimilar. But Trump doesn't even carry, he's not a statesman at all. And he's embarrassed the country innumerable times.
What a time to be alive.
And, you know, the thing is, Trump isn't, I mean, Pence isn't even fit to be a vice president.
No, he's not.
You know?
No, he's not.
Who the fuck is Mike Pence? You know, he completely fucked up his state. You know, he's fucking irrelevant politically.
This is where I believe someone's supposed to say butter emails or but Benghazi or something. That's the response. Butter emails. Emails though. Emails.
Yeah.
Pulling out of climate change, but emails though.
The real problem. Those are the lightning rod. And you know, it's funny because yeah, that was such a big deal, and you know, Trump and his, it's just, I don't know if it's hubris or they're just so inept that the narratives that, you know, people post all the time, Trump's tweets from, you know, years ago, where every step along the way he makes the same mistakes or does something even worse. And you know, one of the things that came out from his trip in Europe, and you know, just call my cell phone and here's my phone number, and you know, tweeting from his unsecure phone, and you know, just stuff like that. And I mean, that's an example, but you just see that playing out over and over and over again, and you're like, simpler times.
Oh my goodness, Trump is something else. He's at war with everybody, and it's entertaining. It's sad and scary, but entertaining at the same time.
You know, one thing that I tried to give him a little leeway on going into this, and that was just the one thing. And I was like, well, and, you know, people said that with probably a straight face going into his term. We're only 4 months in now, or a little bit more. And I said, well, maybe he'll get some really good technocrats who know what they're doing, and he can shake up government in a good way. We didn't see that happen, unfortunately. And so now, I mean, there's really nothing to hope for. He's put in place people, and in a lot of cases, he hasn't even put in place, you know, a huge number of positions still, from what I've read it, that he has to.
I do see the tide turning on Comey, though. There was a lot of, when he got fired, there was a lot of, you know, outrage about that. But I see Clinton and other Democrats are kind of blasting his handling of the email situation, and he shit again to them. They were all, you know, kind of siding with him for a minute there, but now it's back to shitting on Comey. I think it's just a good thing he got let go all the way around now.
Yeah, but whoever, I mean, Trump still hasn't been able to replace him. He hasn't even been able to find a candidate. And, you know, when Trump pressured Comey to, and not only Comey, it came out, the head of the NSA and one of the other government agencies that oversees a lot of surveillance pressured them to politicize it. And that's not part of the deal. And that they would swear loyalty to Trump. I mean, no core professional person like that is going to do that, and they shouldn't. They're not serving They're not serving Trump. They're serving the government. Trump isn't the government as much as he'd like to be.
Right.
So you've got there's a lot wrong with the Comey firing, and I think Comey got put in a tough spot, and I think a lot of it's come out, but I still think there's so much that we don't know there. But on the one hand, where, you know, it's alleged that Trump tried to pressure them into swearing allegiance to him. I mean, we didn't talk about that, before we were discussing this. I mean, that's problematic in itself.
Swear your loyalty to me.
Right, Dad?
It's he called the intelligence community incompetent while on the campaign trail. So it's I don't
They're
know.
not just saying this though.
Right. He made enemies of the intelligence community and the media. So you got to keep that in mind as well, unless we're going to, unless we want to pretend like the media and the intelligence community are above being petty, which I don't think they are. But absolutely, he definitely wanted people to be on his side. I'd agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, you shit on the FBI, and then they kind of turn on you and start leaking things. It's kind of the FBI being petty. Not to bandwagon his leaks things, but confidential and secret information shouldn't just be leaking out left or right the way it does.
We don't know if it's the FBI leaking though either, so that's kind of a job.
Sure, but leaks shouldn't be happening. Period. I can't recall a time when this much was leaking from the White House.
There was in Obama's terms. There was.
Well, he was just scandal free. Obama really had a clean presidency now when you look back at it.
Oh yeah, I think so. But I think the leaks that came out, I think leaking has been going on a lot since Bush. I think everything that happened with 9/11 and Patriot Act, and then the disastrous wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. We've seen leaks consistently since that time, through Obama's term as well. And I wasn't alive, or old enough to remember a lot of the stuff that happened during Bush 1 and obviously Reagan. But I have a feeling that I think leaks are just part of government now. And, I'd like to see a lot of them not happen, especially ones that are damaging to our allies or essentially foreign policy. But I don't know.
At this point, is there anything that could change your opinion on the impeachment proceedings? Do you think he should just be impeached no matter what?
I think he's tried to obstruct the investigations. I mean, that's pretty much set in stone. So, I mean, and also lying to the American public. I mean, that was enough to get start the impeachment proceedings on Clinton. So, yeah. And it's not just again, like I said before, those 4 piles. It's not just because of the obstruction and what's going on with Russia, but he's essentially in violation of a lot of our, I feel like, the duty of the president. The, the business dealings and the kids and the money, and it's too much going on. And it just doesn't sit right, unfortunately.
How'd you feel about the Kathy Lee picture with the head?
It's provocative, and a lot of snowflakes got hurt.
You didn't feel it was too far?
I thought it was ugly, but I didn't really care, to be honest. More poor taste than anything. And I don't think it's anything different than we've seen really happen in the past.
Seems to be talk of the day, and now there's a lot of stories coming out about how many people were arrested during Obama's term for making threats against the president.
Do you think that was unfounded?
No, not at all.
And I
thought it was bold. If any president was going to go after you, it seems like Trump would be that guy to really, make it as big a deal as possible.
Well, he needs these distractions.
Right.
He needs people talking about his stupid tweets when he's, fucking up education and fucking up, these climate deals and, pushing people at NATO summits and, making an ass of himself at the G7. I mean, he needs the petty stuff as much as anybody else, because if you're reading the meat of what this administration's doing, whether at the department level or at the executive level, if you know government, you know law, you can see that there's a lot going wrong right now, and it's not in this country's benefit. So, and also the smack of hypocrisy. Like, I mean, I had forgotten about it. Fucking douchebag Ted Nugent, or whatever the fuck his name is.
Yeah.
All that disgusting stuff that he had said about Obama over the years. Even Trump's fucking ridiculous tweets about it. And then, has him at the White House, which was just gross, And then for him to cry wolf about this, and it's just like, fuck you.
Fucking Ted Nugent. Fucking.
And I mean, also like and I'm not going to put it on all Trump supporters or conservatives to a point, but hate crimes have been through the fucking roof, and just silence from the administration.
Well, they've been on the rise for a while. I think that was a trend. I think that was a trend that predates Trump.
But why? Media, the hatred.
Well, I think it really picked up when we elected a black president. I think that really put a battery in a lot of backs of of racist would be.
And do you think electing Trump after the things that he said, and Sessions becoming Attorney General, and there's the host of ugly that happened during the campaign?
I think the officials we have in place now are there largely because of the hate that's been building and bubbling over the last 8-9 years. Like, I think
and as a democracy and as a country, a multi-ethnic country,
well,
okay.
Here's the thing about our democracy. I'll call it that.
Joke.
Yeah, here's the thing about that. Like, the majority of voters are white, and you really have to be careful about shitting on white people, or you'll get shit like this. Like, that's just what it comes down to. Like, you shit on white people, and then a pro-white guy comes out and wins. Like this, I don't think there's anything that surprising about this at all, to be honest. Like, you can only push diversity so hard before shit like this happens.
But we are a diverse country.
Sure, but you can't push it. You have to let it be organic. You had to let it flow naturally, or to be blunt, white people are going to push back.
But in a country of law, that can't sit well with you. You're kind of dead.
Well, white people write the laws. Like, I think
they write the laws, but they don't always follow them either.
Yeah, they're in many respects above the law too. Unfortunately, I shouldn't say above the law. The laws aren't applied to them fairly, or in the same way that they're applied to everyone else. Like,
so it's fine then that.
It's not about it being fine. It's just about it being, the reality of the situation.
It doesn't have to be, though. And it shouldn't be.
Definitely shouldn't be. There just has to be more politicians willing to bridge the gap. Like, you can't demonize whites and expect this not to happen.
Demonized, dead. Were the whites demonized as a race, as a people?
I can't really answer whether they actually were or not, but they definitely felt like they were. I'll say that. They definitely felt like no one was standing up or speaking for them.
But you know what's funny?
Real or not, they felt that way.
They keep
dead, but
nobody was standing up for us. Nobody standing up for us. But at the same time, they keep electing these officials. It's not us. It's them.
Yeah, Dad. I mean, you've got. I see where you're coming from. You have a decent point. But at the end of the day, I mean,
they make their own worst enemies. You know what I'm saying?
They haven't gone anywhere. These people's representatives haven't changed.
Right.
Especially these white and red districts. Their life hasn't changed economically, so to speak, for the most part, at least according to statistics.
I appreciate them, being spurred into action, because I think what this has done is this has really put government under the microscope and got a lot of people involved that otherwise would have just really, for the most part, ignore what's going on in Washington. And I think America is paying attention now to its politics more so than in the past, for sure. I think that's got to be a positive, or got to be looked at as a positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as they don't feel so beaten down, they give up.
That's true. Yeah, you got to worry about that too. But I mean, and an active and I can't say well-informed, but informed populace is a good thing. I mean, I think.
Yeah. And I think another thing that, I mean, you're aware of and Norm's aware of is that what we see happen, I mean, with the VRA being rolled back and, again, gerrymandering and the voter purges, the disenfranchisement, this is based just on a racial background. DMV closures too. It has nothing to do with party affiliation. It has to do with race.
Mm-hmm.
So where does that leave people?
What do you think for gerrymandering?
That doesn't happen to white Americans, does it?
Yeah, what do you think a solution would be to stop the redrawing of districts? Because it is needed at times. But
yes, but not in the way that it's done, and that's what the Supreme Court's even said in several cases in different states. It's being done to weed out black voters and make their vote less powerful. I think you need more oversight, and I think you need regulations that people shouldn't be. I mean, you're pretty much allowing resegregation to happen, and they're doing it legally until it's turned over by a higher court. That shouldn't be allowed to happen in the first place. And I don't think it takes a lot to prevent that from happening. And it shouldn't. The government is for the people. And that's not what's been happening. And I think one unfortunate thing is, like we were talking about in another thread, where when you roll back these civil rights protections and you roll back laws preventing this from happening,
oh God,
the same shit that they were supposed to prevent from happening happens. And that's not a coincidence.
First let me be clear. Are they actually rolling back civil rights? Or because the thread that I was in was just about them defunding an agency that handled an aspect of civil rights, as far as I'm guessing. I don't even remember what the agency did specifically, but are there actual civil rights that are being repealed?
Part of the VRA had to do with oversight of, segregation era, where segregation was, the hardest and had to, they had such a hard time breaking it up. And, you didn't get rid of some of these segregationist policies in some places well through the 80s and 90s. That's, one thing that always comes to my mind that's fucking crazy. But part of it had to do with oversight of, polling and, how they're allowed to do the districts. And it dealt with a bunch of stuff. I have to bring up the ruling at some point again. But yeah, I mean, I think that's problematic. I think if you're pulling back civil rights protections at any level in this country, it's obviously not going to have a good outcome. Especially, as you said, Dad, I mean, white people feel like they're victims, whether it's true or not, and their reaction is to go after minorities. So, yeah, I think the protections are probably needed. And I think if, Sessions was too racist to become a federal judge in the 80s or 90s in fucking Alabama, I definitely think he wouldn't be the person who should be this Attorney General.
I agree with that.
Well, definitely not gonna. I'm not even gonna play devil's advocate for Sessions. Fuck that guy. But
It's a pattern.
Yeah. Sessions has no business in office, in any public office.
And a lot of times he's the one now who decides what gets funding or who the heads are for these, especially within the DOJ aspect of it. So, yeah, I mean, you have people who are supposed to be guarding the hen house who end up being, the fox. So, yeah, I think it sets up minorities for failure.
Doesn't it kind of, looking ahead, wouldn't the good that could potentially come out of this be if African Americans just woke up and realized, how dangerous these officials were and how active they should be? Like, don't things kind of have to get worse before they get better? Because people, African Americans specifically, aren't really involved in the political process like they should be.
That's not true. That's not true.
No, we're not like we should be.
We are.
I actually should do a thread on that. Our numbers are super low.
But here's the thing. We're not the majority of people in the country.
No, I mean, as a percentage of our community, of our 12-13%, there's an extremely low percentage of that actually turn out.
Dad, I think that is something that we should keep in mind and be more active about at the grassroots level, the local level, to get people to vote and to get people registered and do everything else that you can. But like I was just saying, in numerous places where they have purged voting rolls of minorities and specifically blacks in this country, how can you even, not even a leg up, how do you get a fair chance at expressing yourself, at voting, at becoming a part of what this country's supposed to be, if you can't even do that? That's the problem. If your vote doesn't count, even though you vote, that's a problem. If you can't get a license or you can't register to vote because they've closed all the DMVs in your county or your district or within hundreds of miles of you, that's a serious problem. That's more than you being active or voting or wanting to vote or wanting to change things. They're taking away your rights.
I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, we know who makes the rules. We know who breaks the rules. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, guess what? If we vote, right, it's not in a majority rules vote. It's always some issue where, the people in the lowest counted state gets more points to vote. Why does that state get more power over a bigger state? Because they have more citizens? I mean, come on. No, hear me out. A lot of the voting stuff needs to get overturned, such as you losing your voting rights, going to jail. That needs to be redone.
I actually agree with that.
The voting Electoral college needs to get redone. It should be popular vote, period. Popular vote wins. That's it. We the only country that doesn't do by popular vote. That makes no sense. That's a form of control.
You would like a direct democracy.
Yes. I mean, come on, for a country that preaches democracy, we don't employ it. We don't do it. The people in charge does not. They say one thing and do something else, and and then people are starting to get pissed off about it.
That's a good thing.
It's come on. How can you say you're gonna help me out, and then turn around when I vote you in the office and you don't do shit, and it's been going on for years. It's been going on for 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's the same thing
I can't ride with you on direct democracy, but I do believe felons should be able to vote. They should be able to have their voting rights reinstated. But I also go further and think they should be able to, exercise their Second Amendment right as well. But,
Hell yeah. You won't hear the NRA say that, though. I don't know why.
The NRA is definitely a bigoted, we'll say you'll use that word, a bigoted organization. That's for sure. But you don't think anyone should have guns, right? Right, 88?
It's tough. I don't think the proliferation of them and the numbers and the availability is acceptable in this century now. I don't think, especially in urban areas, they should be.
Urban areas, really?
Would you prefer?
How about rural areas? You want to be specific?
Would you prefer metropolitan?
That's fine. I hate that code word shit.
Is that a dog whistle there? Urban areas,
urban areas,
especially in inner cities.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's about population and it's about density.
Yeah,
you're going to do a lot less harm with a gun when there's not 300 people living within 1,000 feet of you.
This is true.
I mean, I think it's common sense. There's probably, I don't know, 500 people in the building I'm in. It's like, no, right. I don't think that's necessary. But if you want to have, it's difficult. But I just, the numbers and population density, and it's the number of firearms that are freely available to people. I think that should trouble everyone. I don't personally want to live, like it's the wild, wild west in a city of 10 million people. It's absurd. So many times, someone will just let off, could be a cop even. They'll let off 16, 17 shots, and they might get the guy they were after. But they also might take down, 3 civilians and then a kid 2 blocks away and, in his bed. That's.
Do you think that our government, well, I don't believe that to be true, but do you think the possibility of having a fascist state kind of lends itself to the Second Amendment? Do you kind of support the Second Amendment more, knowing how government could go?
I think in a country like the United States, and I think in the time period that we live in, I don't think it's hard to come to that conclusion. I think where we are politically, socially, and economically, I just don't think that lines up with being a reality. If America turned into some authoritarian regime overnight and cut itself off from the world, or the ramifications would just bubble out to the point that the world would just collapse. So I think, it would.
Not to jump around too much, but do you think where we're at socially, economically, etc., Jim Crow type laws are still possible?
Yeah.
Like, is that fear still very real?
Hold on. I want to interject. Do you hear the story of what's this lady's name? The lady who runs the education department.
DeVos.
Yes, they was actually having a congressional hearing on her, not congressional hearing, but like a committee. And the lady asked. She says, "Would you allow discrimination in your schools?" And she couldn't give an answer. And she couldn't give an answer because she is exactly trying to roll back this. She is trying to, roll back Brown versus Board of Ed and go back to official segregation. They're cutting the funding to the schools. They're going to have schools for the rich white people and no schools for the poor black people. That's what it is.
I'm laughing right now trying to decide how much do I want to tap dance right now.
That's how it begins. It's a slow crawl into that government oppression state. It's a slow crawl, and then when they normalize it, it'll happen.
All right,
piece of shit. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I'll do the whole thing and say just discrimination isn't just racial. I mean that was a broad question that she was asked that you're answering very narrowly.
I think she should be able to say no to that. I mean, that's.
But she couldn't give an answer either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that she couldn't give an answer, that's a yes. I mean,
if you're pro private school or charter school, it's not that easy an answer. And I think we all know private schools and charter schools discriminate against the students they admit pretty thoroughly, pretty often. Like, it's almost just common practice at this point.
Yeah, but I don't
think she could answer that and
the question was
no and then be for privatizing education anyway. I think it was a loaded question, to be honest.
She said she could not give an answer to the idea that, would you not give government funds to a school if they openly discriminated against a certain clientele of people? And she couldn't. And the answer would be no, because you're not supposed to give government funds to a corporation that openly discriminates against people. It's against the law.
And that's the thing. That's what you're trying to gloss over here. It's against the law. You can't discriminate people on race, sex, and even on the core level. This is something that charter schools try to get around, is learning disabilities. That's why she doesn't want to fucking answer. And her job, the laws that bind the education departments and her, are that they can't discriminate dead. That's why it's so fucked up that she can't answer the question. She doesn't fucking know what her job is. She doesn't know that the laws that she has to adhere to. And that same thing came out repeatedly when they were trying to appoint her.
All right, we'll get right back to that, but I still want you to answer. Do you think Jim Crow type laws are possible today, 88?
At the federal level, I think they'd have a pretty fucking hard. I mean, long as the Supreme Court is functioning, I think they'd have a very hard time doing that. At the state level, we see them fucking, kind of flub it quite frequently in the fucking South. I guess that's my answer. At the state level, yeah. At the federal level, I sure as hell would hope not.
It seems like there's still like a lot of fear of it happening at the federal level, or at least it's, tossed around as though it's possible. Maybe it's just used politically to scare people. But I think
you have maybe not so much Jim Crow, but I think there's constitutional issues that you kind of bump heads with a lot, or at least that keep coming up, and in the Supreme Court. But it's more often dealing with, at least in recent years, things like immigration, things like religion, and religion gets played both ways. One thing that's very popular on the right and the Christian right is that they want their right to discriminate against people to be protected. And sometimes the Supreme Court has gone along with that. I think that's really troubling. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's discrimination is it's just too broad. I wish it was more specific. I always like it when things say you can't discriminate on the grounds of, because I think when you just use discrimination broadly, it covers far too much.
Well, I think, you know, things like the Hobby Lobby, when they say that, well, and other things as well, of course, that our right to religion exceeds our right to discriminate against you, whether in any context. I mean, it's pretty straightforward to me. I personally, I don't think anyone's right. Their right to religion shouldn't be bound to step over your right as a human being. I mean, that's core democratic liberal values.
And yeah, the right definitely disagrees. I don't think anyone disagrees. I think just people look at rights or believe in different rights. And some people believe rights exist that others don't believe exist. I think it's complicated.
I mean, we have hundreds of years of, you know, established theory on what rights are and what are inalienable rights.
There's still some debate on it though. Like there's people now who would feel like access to internet's a right, and there's a lot of people who would feel that's not a right.
I feel like smacking those people in the face. I really do.
There's there's a lot of people who don't even believe that a livable wage is a right, that you don't have a right to it. Some people
when you say people dead, you're saying corporations. So let's keep this in context, right?
I thought they were people.
That's another thing to go with, but yeah, I mean, is food, is water, is the internet. I mean, I think those are core needs of people.
Sure, but are they right? Sure, I'd agree they're core needs, but are they right?
In the richest country, in essentially the world, yeah, I think those. I think our citizens can do a little bit better than we've been getting along with.
But if they only come about when the country is wealthy, are they really rights? They're more like luxuries then at that point.
No, it's the opposite, really.
Do you feel like people in other countries have these rights as well? Are these just American rights? These aren't like human rights then?
No, these are, yeah, I would say they're, you know, I think when we draw from England and France and, you know, Martin Luther in Germany, yeah, I think those are the basis for our country, and those are the basis for, you know, modern humanities. I don't think there's any excuse for not doing it at this point. And if you look at other countries that are even less developed than us, and they can do it, there's really no excuse why we can't.
Yeah, other countries.
Everybody knows why we can't. Everybody knows why we can't.
I don't like using other countries as a metric for anything in America.
But if America draws from other countries for its basis for democracy, I think you have to look backwards. If you don't look back to what your core values are,
I think our core values have changed. I think they've changed a lot, and I think some values have been.
Whose values have changed?
I think Americans don't value liberty as much as they used to. For example,
they don't value liberty. They value liberty. The fact of the matter is, there are people in control.
Well, there's no saying they don't value it. I said I don't think they value it like they used to.
Yes and no. I mean,
I just think our values have changed a little. I think Family values have changed a lot. I'm whether for worse or for better. I don't, that's up to debate. But I think a lot of values in this country have changed. I think our attitudes towards wealth, education, I think a lot of things have just changed. The country isn't what it used to be. I don't really think looking back is as helpful as we pretend it is.
So do you think, Locke and Smith and Paine and, we should just...
I think people then were different from people now. And not to say it's, there's no value in any of that. I think it's just different now, and everything needs to be taken with a grain of salt. Like, I don't think everything is applicable like directly to now. Like, times are different. Like, times are different. I don't think that you can solve new problems with old solutions.
That's a nice soundbite, but the people themselves, they haven't changed.
I think people were, well, I can't even really say
their
that.
Motivation, their humanity itself.
I think incentives now are just way different. I think survival was much more of an issue back then. I think people are just different. Like, I just don't think any of that stuff bears the same weight now that it did then. And I think it's changing how we work socially, economically, politically. I just think we can't really apply things the way we used to with our government. I don't know. It's still changing. So I mean, we'll see. But I think you can't really use values the way you used to. Like, I think we all have values, and I think we end up talking past each other, and our agreements on a lot of things are only seeming because we mean such different things when we're having those discussions. I don't know. But we're at an hour, so that's time.
Good talk, guys. Catch you next week.
All right, see y'all later.